If you've ever asked, when is the best time to go bird watching? Did you know you're actually asking two questions? When's the best time of year? And when's the best time of day? If you get both right, you'll be seeing birds you'd otherwise miss completely. Birding is like showing up to a party. You don't want to be too early. You definitely don't want to be too late. And if you hit that sweet spot, you'll get the best chips and dip, but you'll also get a forest absolutely dripping with birds. Let's break it down into two parts. When is the best time of year to go birding? And when is the best time of day? Hi, I'm Rick. I discovered birds late in my life, in my 30s, while working a 9-to-5 with a busy family life. I self-taught myself all the birds, and it was tough. It took me like 10 years, but now I'm making these videos to share the shortcuts I wish I had way back then. I'm the author of a birding newsletter called The 3-Minute Birder. When's the best time of year to bird? Spring migration, of course. This is the Super Bowl of birding. Well, why is it spring? Why is that important? Well, this is the time when the birds are moving from the south up to the north. We always remember learning as a kids, the birds fly south for the winter. Well, they have to come back at some time, and they start from South America or Central America or the Bahamas, wherever they're living in the winter, and they start flying north. But you've got a small window to see them, like 2 to 3 weeks. What's also important about spring migration and why it's the best time, because the birds are in their brightest colors to try to attract their partners. They're also singing like crazy, which is why it's easier to hear them when they're singing. Is spring migration? Well, it depends on where you live. If you're at the bottom of the US, it starts a little earlier, March, first part of April, if you're in Texas, Arizona. And if you're up north or in Canada, it's late April, early May. It's those magical 2 to 3 weeks as the birds are flying through. Now, they're not staying in your area. They're going all the way up to the boreal forest, because that's where the birds have their babies. Some stay in your backyard, but most go all the way past even where the Canadians live, way up north. So if you miss that window, you miss the birds until they come back in fall. They emptied me again. Oh, those birds are hungry. Time to film. You've seen this before. Armstrong Bird Food, #1 in Canada, and the only seed I trust in my backyard. All made right here in Canada. Family business since the 1980s. Real people who care about birds. No filler, just clean seed that birds love. Ooh, look at that. Word definitely gets around that Rick has the good stuff. Oh yeah. Available across Canada, in the US, and on Amazon Prime. Armstrong Bird Food, the official seed of Rick's backyard. That's much better. So that's right. Fall migration is the runner-up, the second best time to bird. It's great, but it's a little harder. And here's why. Because birds have different internal clocks. Each one decides when to fly south at a different time. Some start in mid-August, and the latest ones go into late October. So it's really 2 to 3 month window to see the birds instead of 2 to 3 weeks. And in fall, the birds aren't as colorful. They've all gone through a molt, which means they've changed their colors from bright colors to dull and drab. So it's not the same looking pretty bird that you see in the photos. And also, they're not singing. Birds sing to establish territory. Well, when they're flying south, they don't need to establish that territory, so they're quiet. Much harder to identify. But there's an upside. In the fall, you get the juveniles, the birds that were born that summer. This is their first journey south, and they've never done it before. So they're using their internal GPS, but sometimes they go haywire, and they'll fly east instead of flying south, and you'll get a rare bird that shows up in your patch. It's exciting. But it's also a longer season, so you don't have to go rush to hit those 2 to 3 weeks. You've got 2 or 3 months to figure it out, so you have more time to explore. So that's a plus. Now, the second question, the one you didn't know you were asking. What's the best time of day? Well, you've heard the early bird gets the worm. Well, the early birder gets the bird. It's true. During spring migration, the best time to bird, I'm up usually in the 5 o'clock hour to be at the woods at 6 o'clock when the sun rises. It's that magical first hour when the birds are most active. It's called the dawn chorus because that's when the birds are all singing. It's so loud, it's deafening. That's spring migration. Also, what people don't know is that birds migrate overnight. They're migrating while we're sleeping, and so when we get there at sunrise, it's when the birds just landed and they're hungry and they're tired. They're focused on the food. They're not focused on you as a birder, so it's a good time to photograph and explore the birds when they're not too spooked off. Here's a pro tip. In spring migration, hope for bad weather. That's right. Put on your rain gear and go out birding when there's a storm. Well, why is that? Well, imagine the birds flying and they see this big dark cloud or the rain. They're going to stop. They don't want to fly through that, so they're going to find the first piece of land. And if you happen to live on an ocean or the Great Lakes or a lake, the birds are going to stop at the first bit of land after the water. Go to those woods. It's going to be magical. They call it a fallout because the birds really are just falling out of the sky. It is magical. The trees are loaded. You're going to get the viewing of a lifetime. Have you ever been in a fallout? I want to hear in the comments below. What about summer? You've talked about fall and spring. Can you go birding in the summer? Is that still a good time? Yes, but it's different. See, this is the time the birds are nesting and they're defending their territory. So they're loud and they're calling, they're fighting off any rival birds. So if you find a bird, it's not going anywhere because it's on territory. You'll see your local birds, not the migrants, the ones that flew over, but the ones that are nesting. The important time to go then is in the morning or in the evening because in the hot summer days, nobody, even the birds, are doing much in the hot afternoon. Well, what about winter? Is that a good time to go birding? It is, but it's different. The birds sleep in a little bit, just like we all want to in the wintertime, right? It's cold. It takes about an hour after the sun rises for the birds to kind of wake up and want to go start feeding. They're waiting for that sun to hit their feathers and warm them up. Wait for the sun. But in the wintertime, there's some other really cool birds you can find. This is when the ducks are showing up. This is when snowy owls come down from the north. And have you ever heard of winter finches? These are birds that we normally never, ever see because they're so far up in the north. But in the wintertime, they'll come down searching for food. These are finches like juncos or crossbills or grosbeaks. So cool. Birds in the wintertime will fly just far enough south to find food. Same with eagles. They'll fly just south far enough where the water isn't frozen. Here's a bonus. If you live near the ocean, keep an eye out for what's called hurricane season. I know if you live in Florida, you hate this season, but birders love it because birds can get caught into a storm, and then as the storm goes landfall and up north, the birds are trapped in that storm until it peters out. And you'll get unexpected birds like a booby or a shearwater way inland, something you would never ever expect. So watch out for those hurricane storms. It can be a jackpot. So I hope I've answered your questions. When is the best time to bird? Spring migration for the action. Early morning for the beauty, for the dawn chorus. And year-round if you know where to look. Do you want these tips delivered right into your inbox? Subscribe to my newsletter, The 3-Minute Birder. I'll give you great tips and reminders like this on when is the best time to bird.